in Takodana, and they're sure to do everything they can to get it.
Running between the 4th and 9th of October, the Star Wars Battlefront 2 multiplayer beta gives a great overview of the multiplayer offerings that the final game will bring, as EA, DICE, Motive, Criterion, and probably one or two other developers that I'm forgetting work really hard to try and build upon the original game and improve what it didn't quite get right. We recently had the opportunity to try out the Star Wars Battlefront 2 beta at DICE in Sweden and definitely came away impressed by how far they've gone. As a disclaimer, we do need to disclose that travel and accommodation for this event were provided by EA. Galactic Assault is the perfect example of this improvement, as it's a much better fleshed out mode with a more narrative spin compared to Walker Assault from the first game. You don't just have plain objectives to try and capture, or at walkers to try and destroy, as the beta's level sees the Trade Federation droid army trying to storm the palace of Naboo. It's very evocative of the prequel films, even if it is a bit jumbled up by having clone troopers defending with Rey and Han Solo as heroes alongside them, and not palace guards with Obi-Wan and, I don't know, young Anakin or something. Okay, young Anakin isn't in the game, but admit it, that would be quite hilarious to see him in this game. The battle will gradually evolve, first as the droids escort an MTT robot transport through the streets, trying to keep its health up high, and then trying to breach the choke point entrance to the palace. One of the biggest additions is with character classes, funneling players into Assault, Heavy, Officer and Specialist, each of which has got specific weapons, items and abilities. The Officer is a really interesting one because he takes the place of the healer in the group that you might be familiar with from Battlefield. Instead of keeping people's health up high, he tries to group them together with one particular ability and can place a turret with another, making him great for defensive operations. Meanwhile, the Specialist is a great mix of distance with its sniper rifle and having a burst fire rifle as an ability, where you then need to keep downing enemies in order to keep this burst fire weapon active, giving a little more risk and reward to the kind of close range play that some people love to turn to with this class. There's also been a shift to wave-based spawning, so that once you pick your character, you're grouped together with other players who are readying up around about the same time and sent into battle together. Compared to the buddy respawns of the first game, it's yet another step forward, and again it shows a willingness to do things differently to the tried and tested Battlefield formula that DICE are best known for. Instead, they're still trying to tailor the game to the more casual kind of player. You will be able to squad up if you have friends online, it has been confirmed to us, but in either instance there's a points boost for sticking together with those that you spawn alongside. It's a nice hands-off style of squad play that is easy to abide by and equally easy to ignore. Of course, if you go as the lone wolf, you won't be earning as many points towards playing as a hero character. Gone are the characters and vehicle tokens found in the first game, as you're instead earning points while playing and then get the opportunity to spend those when you respawn in order to become a hero, a souped up soldier, or pop into the pilot seat of a variety of vehicles. It's a system that feels more rewarding and simply makes more sense than the mad rush or the wait to get a token first. Sadly, the preview that we had of Galactic Assault was somewhat anticlimactic thanks to server difficulties in getting a full 20 versus 20 match going at DICE, and I mean this just shows the difficulties of developing and balancing games. I'm really hoping it's a lot more fun in the full beta because the map could feel a bit empty without the full complement of players, and yet also paradoxically too cramped for much vehicular combat. The one exception to this was the AT-RT armoured battle legs that were seriously overpowered and will definitely be toned down, if they haven't already been. The opening section to this Naboo map was just a bit too long and too close to the kind of Walker Assault grind forwards. It's these things that DICE will need to see and try to react to from the beta, and hopefully some of these have already been tweaked for the beta's launch since we played it. By contrast, the other modes were just a lot of fun right off the bat. Strike brings together the various smaller modes from the first game and remixes them so that you're always just attacking or defending a single objective. In this instance, it was Maz's castle/bar from The Force Awakens, with the First Order trying to steal something and push forwards to a ship near to the Resistance spawn point in order to win. It's a pretty straightforward fight, but it showed Battlefront at its best, with plenty of action to be found not long after spawning, despite only having 16 players. and it had the freedom to push an attack down a few different routes. Do you want to try and run down the beach? I mean, that's not going to be the best plan because you're out in the open, but pushing along the tree line is one option, or you can head deeper into the jungle for another potential route. It works especially well if you stick together with your teammates and make good use of the special units available in this battle. There's also still the kinds of single player that the first game had, even though there is, of course, the full story campaign with Iden Verso and her Imperial Special Forces group that you will be able to play through. Arcade mode lets you play solo or in split screen co-op, taking on team deathmatch mode with and against AI, or challenging yourself to kill a certain number of AI before time runs out in Onslaught mode. You get to choose between different hero characters in Onslaught, but it must be said that Darth Maul is much more effective here than the B2 Battle Droid. At the second time of asking, and with a much better idea of what was going on, Fighter Assault sat much better with me than the Gamescom pre-alpha build that I played. I don't know whether Criterion have tweaked anything, or if it was simply down to having a small amount of experience with it, but playing the same level, which was the assault on the Fondor shipyards, I felt like I could contribute much more when playing the objective than I could before. You do really need to focus on the objective in order to succeed, but the Rebellion even managed to pull off a victory on one occasion. Much like the fighter battles of the original, there's a mixture of players and AI, so while it's just 12 players on each side, it still feels action-packed with laser bolts flying all over the place in spectacular fashion, and you also don't necessarily need to be the best player around in order to contribute. All of the iconic ships from the Star Wars series have been pushed into logical feeling class-like roles in the battle. So TIE fighters go up against X-Wings as the kind of all-rounders, you've got TIE interceptors and A-Wings as the lighter dogfighters, while Y-Wings and TIE bombers are the muscle for dealing serious damage to objectives. The handling feels great, even if the default controls do make it a little bit too easy to pull a barrel roll and get disorientated. You don't have the lock-on of before, and you now have to lead targets with the reticules that the game provides, so if you know what you're about, you can do a surprising amount of damage from quite far away. Making the best use of the hero ships here relies on resilience and skill, much more so than they do on the ground, as you're much easier to kill, I feel, and have a huge target on your back. Stay alive as a hero, and you can be a decisive factor by dealing a lot of damage to an objective or keeping the skies clear of enemies. Star Wars Battlefront II looks like a game that is finally getting to grips with its potential. Where the original was roundly criticised for not having enough depth or variety, Battlefront II answers those complaints quite convincingly. Sure, there's bound to be plenty of balancing and tweaking to be done in the run-up to launch, and it will be great to see Galactic Assault with a full server in the coming days, but after being a little bit disappointed by the first game, I'm now much more eager to see and play more of the sequel. If you're also eager to see more of Star Wars Battlefront 2, then we will have you covered before the beta kicks off, and again, that's between the 4th of October and 9th of October. You can check out some more gameplay from the arcade mode and Strike, and we also have some older impressions from Fighter Assault. Before you go though, please do like, subscribe and share, and for more written articles on video games of all sorts, head over to thesixthaxis.com. Hopefully you'll join us again soon. Goodbye!
The artifact is safe.